Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. You could have heard a pin drop today at the White House press briefing. White House Chief of Staff, retired Marine Corps General John Kelly, produced a riveting and stunning condemnation of a Democrat congresswoman for her comments about President Trump's condolence call to the widow of one of 4 servicemen killed 2 weeks ago in Niger. Kelly, whose son was killed fighting for the U.S. in Afghanistan, described the agonizing process of notifying a family member of a loved one's death and the incredible pain those loved ones go through and live with every day. A discussion and a news cycle on this issue that began with one answer in the Rose Garden about past presidents' practices. All of this came as the ambush of those special forces troops in Africa is coming under increasing scrutiny. We still know very little about what happened and why, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are making their feelings clear, calling for briefings on the specific mission and the broad object in Africa. We have Fox team coverage. Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon tells us specifically what we are learning about the attack. But we start off with Chief White House correspondent John Roberts and a mesmerizing and emotional briefing today. Good evening, John.
It certainly was. Brett, good evening to you. Yesterday, the White House told us that the White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, was on that condolence call with President Trump. Today, an emotional Kelly delivered an impassioned defense of his boss's outreach.
I thought at least that was sacred.
It was an extraordinary moment. Chief of Staff John Kelly taking the podium at the White House, denouncing in the strongest terms what Florida Congresswoman Frederica Wilson said about the president's condolence call to the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson.
I was stunned when I came to work yesterday morning and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me.
Kelly knows intimately of what he speaks. He lost his son Robert, a Marine lieutenant, to combat in Afghanistan in 2010. He says he was so incensed by what was being reported yesterday, he had only one place to go.
The only thing I could do to collect my thoughts was to go and walk among the finest men and women on this earth. And you can always find them, because they're in Arlington National Cemetery.
The Congresswoman and the aunt who raised Johnson both insist President Trump made insensitive remarks in the condolence call. Johnson's widow, to whom the call was made, has not commented. General Kelly revealed today that he advised President Trump to not make calls to families of the fallen, but when the president said he felt compelled to do so, Kelly offered what his friend, Joint Chiefs Chairman Joe Dunford, told him when Robert was killed.
He said, Kel, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into by joining that 1%. He knew what the possibilities were. When he died, he was surrounded by the best men on this earth.
With Kelly hoping to put the controversy behind the White House, President Trump today aimed to staunch criticism he hasn't been responsive enough to the hurricane in Puerto Rico.
I think we did a fantastic job, and we're being given credit.
The president welcomed Governor Ricardo Rossello into the Oval Office to talk recovery, including an FBI investigation into allegations of widespread corruption among local officials in the distribution of relief supplies.
I think the governor will be able to do something about that.
If there is a public official that is purposely mishandling the food that should go to the people of Puerto Rico, there is going to be some hell to pay.
The president gave himself a 10 when asked to grade the administration's response to Hurricane Maria, and then asked Governor Rossello to weigh in.
Did we do a great job? Military, first responders, FEMA. Did we do a great job?
You responded immediately, sir, and you did so.
And while he pledged to stand with Puerto Rico during the rebuilding, President Trump again warned the federal emergency response can't last forever.
I think the governor understands that FEMA, the military, first responders cannot be there forever.
The president also weighed in on tonight's crucial budget vote in the Senate, which could pave the way for tax reform.
I think we have the votes for the budget, which will be phase 1 of our massive tax cuts and reform. But I think we'll be successful tonight.
In an Oval Office question and answer session that went a full 35 minutes, President Trump said he didn't see the speech former President Bush gave earlier today, an address in which Bush didn't mention President Trump by name, but certainly seemed to be talking about the politics surrounding his election.
Discontent deepened and sharpened partisan conflicts. Bigotry seems emboldened. Our politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication.
Bush lamented the return of isolationism to America and had strong words about the rise of ethnic nationalism.
Bigotry or white supremacy in any form is blasphemy against the American creed.
President Bush also offered a spirited defense of three areas where President Trump has shown the most skepticism: immigration, free trade, and globalization. Though President Trump would say that he is not forsaken those issues, he just wants to make them all work better for America. Brett?
John Roberts live in the North Lawn. John, thanks.